Vera, are you not ashamed of yourself? 1 year of marriage and not even a few once pregnancy. Other women are taking their kids to school and you are here sleeping and snoring like someone who won lottery. Sleep. Vera turned on the bed, half awake. Clifford, please, let me rest small. Rest from what? He fired back. Rest from not getting pregnant? Do you know that woman that married last month is already pregnant? It's showing. Vera, it's been 1 full year since we got married. 1 year, Vera. She sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes. And shouting will make me pregnant, Abby. Clifford, children come from God. Clifford sighed loudly and pointed at her. Please tell God to hurry up, because your husband is running out of patience. He grabbed his keys and stormed out, leaving Vera sitting on the bed, angry and near tears. Vera sat quietly after Clifford left, tears rolling down her cheeks. The compound was silent now, only the sound of her sobs and the ticking wall clock. She wiped her face and whispered, "Why me? Why should I be the only one blamed? Did I marry myself? Why hasn't he asked himself why we are not pregnant yet?" She sighed deeply and shook her head. Hours later, Clifford returned. He dropped his keys on the table and walked past her without a word. Vera rushed to him, trying to hug him. "Clifford, please." But he stepped aside coldly. "Vera, from now on, don't greet me when I come back from work until you are pregnant." The words hit her like a slap. She stood there frozen, watching him in silence, her heart breaking with every bite he took. That night, long after midnight, Vera turned to him on the bed. "Clifford, please wake up. Let's talk." He sighed, eyes half open. "Talk about what? We don't even have a child to talk about." "Exactly," she said, sitting up. "Let's talk about how to fix it. Let's go to the hospital. Let's check ourselves. Maybe something's wrong." Clifford looked at her for a while, then nodded slowly. "Fine, tomorrow." The next morning, they went to the hospital. After several tests and hours of waiting, the doctor finally smiled. "There's nothing wrong with either of you," he said gently. "Sometimes it just takes time. Eat healthy, reduce stress, and eat more fruits." Clifford forced a smile, but Vera could tell he wasn't convinced. As they walked out of the hospital, he muttered, "So, we spent all that money just to be told to eat pineapple?" Vera looked at him and rolled her eyes. "Yes, pineapple. Maybe it will sweeten your attitude too." He shot her a side eye. "Keep joking, Vera. If fruits could help, you better start sleeping inside a fruit basket." She laughed a little, but deep down, her heart was heavy. Finally, after months of trying, Vera got pregnant. The moment she saw those 2 red lines, she smiled and whispered, "Now is time for revenge." From that day, Peace quietly packed his bags and left Clifford's life. At first, the changes were small. "Baby, I want bread and butter," Vera would say softly from the couch, a hand on her belly. Clifford would smile, kiss her forehead, and dash to the kitchen like a good husband. But as Vera's belly grew, so did her cravings and her demands. "Baby, I want fried rice, plantain, and mango, together," she said one sunny afternoon. Clifford blinked. "You mean mango after the rice?" Vera shook her head. "No, together, in one plate. The baby says so." He looked at her, then at the pot, then back at her again. "The baby?" She nodded seriously. "The baby doesn't like delay." From that day, Clifford realized he was no longer just a husband. He was now the personal chef to an unborn baby with unpredictable taste buds. One night, around 1:45 a.m., Vera shook him awake. Her voice was soft, almost pitiful. "Babe." He turned, half asleep. "Huh?" "I want puff-puff," she whispered. He groaned. "Vera, it's almost 2 a.m. Who sells puff-puff by this time?" She pouted, eyes glistening. That woman near the bus stop. He sat up, confused. You mean Mama Favor? The one that closes by 7? Yes, that's the one. My spirit says only her puff-puff will calm the baby. Clifford stared at her for a long moment, then at her belly, then at the clock. He sighed. Vera, that woman is sleeping. Then wake her up, Vera snapped, suddenly sitting upright. If this craving doesn't end, I'll start crying, and you know what happens when I cry. Clifford did know. The last time she cried, the whole neighborhood thought someone died. So, tired and terrified, he dragged himself to the kitchen. If Mama Favor can fry puff-puff, then why can't I? He muttered, rolling up his sleeves like a man about to face battle. He tied a flowery apron around his waist, looking like a confused chef on a mission. Then, he grabbed his phone and searched YouTube. How to Make Puff-Puff Fast by Kiki Foodies. He had heard she made delicious meals, and tonight she was his only hope. Because he was rushing to still make it to work on time, Clifford didn't bother to measure anything. He poured the flour, sugar, and yeast all together. Within minutes, the kitchen turned into a battlefield. Flour on his face, oil splattering like fireworks, and smoke rising like morning sacrifice. 5 minutes later, a strange smell filled the air. Not sweet, not pleasant. Then smoke began to rise. The smoke alarm screamed before Vera did. Jesus, Clifford! She shouted, rushing in. I said puff-puff, not burnt offering. The frying pan was burnt beyond repair, and the puff-puff balls looked like little charcoal balls. Vera covered her nose. My baby is no longer craving puff-puff, she said, and went back to bed. Clifford nearly cried. By morning, the kitchen was a complete mess. Oil was splashed everywhere, flour was all over the counter, and the smell of burnt puff-puff still filled the air. Clifford stood there, looking completely worn out, his eyes red and heavy from lack of sleep. He hadn't rested well since Vera got pregnant. He leaned on the counter and sighed. I can't keep doing this every night, he muttered. Between waking up for her cravings and preparing for work every morning, he was slowly losing his mind. He rubbed his face and looked around the messy kitchen. Who knows what she'll ask for this morning? Maybe roasted crocodile and coconut milk, he said tiredly. Quietly, Clifford tiptoed into the bedroom, picked up his small bag, and hugged it tightly like it could protect him from Vera's cravings. He looked around one last time to make sure she was still asleep, then slowly sneaked out of the room. He opened the door carefully so it wouldn't make noise, but the old hinges still made a small creak. Clifford froze for a few seconds, waiting to see if Vera would wake up. She didn't. He sighed in relief and hurried out. The early morning air was cool on his face as he walked quickly through the compound, still wearing his house slippers. By the time he reached the gate, he looked more like a man escaping from a mission than a husband running from pregnant wife. He pushed the gate gently, stepped outside, and disappeared down the street. Clifford was gone before Vera could open her eyes. When the morning sun finally touched Vera's face, she stretched lazily, smiling in her sleep. But the smile faded when she turned and saw the empty space beside her. Clifford? She called softly. No answer. She sat up, blinked, and looked around. The bed was empty. She rubbed her eyes. Maybe he's making me breakfast, she said to herself, smiling again. But when she entered the kitchen, the smile died instantly. The sight before her nearly made her scream. What? She muttered, stepping back. This man turned my kitchen to battlefield. Then she saw a folded paper on the center table in the parlor. Vera walked slowly towards it, heart thumping. She unfolded it and read, Vera, my beautiful wife, until this baby finishes craving everything in the world, I'm moving to my mother's house. For a second, she was silent. Then she burst out laughing. Oh, Clifford thinks he's the only one who knows the road to his mother's house, she said. She folded the letter neatly and slipped it into her bag. Shaking her head, she laughed softly. So, you wanted a baby, right? Now the baby has come and you are running away. No problem. Clifford, you will learn today.
With that, Vera packed her own bag, carefully, calmly, humming a song only pregnant women understand. She wore her slippers, checked her reflection in the mirror, and smiled wickedly. "Let's see who runs faster," she murmured, locking the door behind her. The neighbors watched in confusion as she strutted down the street, barely leading the way, determination written all over her face. Somewhere across town, Clifford was sitting in his mother's sitting room, sipping tea, thinking he had finally escaped. He didn't know that Vera was already on her way.
Clifford sat in his mother's sitting room, finally relaxed for the first time in weeks. He held a cup of hot tea, gently blowing the steam. "Peace at last," he murmured. His mother smiled. "You see, Clifford, I told you to rest a little. That wife of yours will be fine." He nodded weakly. "Mama, you don't understand. Every night it's one new craving. Yesterday it was puffpuff. Who knows what it will be next? Maybe roasted yam with toothpaste." Before Mama could reply, there was a loud knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Clifford froze, the cup still in his hand. His heart skipped. "Mama," he said slowly, "are you expecting anyone?" She frowned. "No, maybe it's the neighbor." She stood up to open the door. But the moment the door swung open, her eyes widened. There she was, Vera, standing at the entrance with a bright smile on her face and a small travel bag in her hand. "Good morning, Mama," she greeted sweetly. Then her eyes met Clifford's. "My darling husband," she said with a playful grin. Clifford's mouth dropped open. "Jesu," he whispered. He looked around as if searching for an escape route, but it was too late. Vera stepped inside and placed her bag on the floor. "Mama, I'm here to take my husband. If he refuses to come home, no problem. We'll stay here together, because I didn't impregnate myself." Clifford's teacup slipped from his hand and landed on the table with a loud clink. He covered his face, already looking like a man on the verge of tears. "Vera, what do you want from me?" he asked helplessly. Vera sat comfortably beside him, on the couch, smiling. "The same thing you wanted from me when you refused to let me rest," she said softly. "Now it's your turn." Mama looked from one to the other, completely lost. Vera, calm down first," she said. But Vera was already placing her legs on the center table. "Clifford, my whole body is paining me. Massage my legs first, before I decide what my baby is craving today." Mama's eyes widened. "Eh? Massage?" She turned to her son. "Clifford, let me do it. You look tired." Vera quickly interrupted. "No, Mama. The baby said it must be his father's hands. That is what the baby said." She leaned back on the chair and smiled proudly. "So, Clifford, come and do your duty." Clifford looked at her, then at his mother. He wanted to cry, laugh, and disappear all at once. Mama just sighed, shaking her head slowly. "Clifford, my son, I told you pregnancy is teamwork." Vera smirked, closing her eyes like a queen about to be served. "Now, hurry up, Daddy-to-be. My legs are waiting."
Clifford sat quietly, rubbing Vera's legs like a man serving his sentence. The room was calm, until Vera suddenly gasped and sat up straight. "Wait," she said dramatically, eyes wide open. "The baby just spoke." Clifford froze mid-massage. Spoke as in, talked? "Yes," she said, placing a hand on her belly. "The baby said it wants suya and cold pap." Clifford dropped her legs immediately. "Suya and what?" "Cold pap," Vera repeated proudly. He turned to his mother in disbelief. "Mama, did you hear that? Suya and pap, is that not poison?" Mama was too tired to answer. She just sighed and looked away. But Vera wasn't done. Her eyes narrowed as she looked at Clifford's shirt. "Wait, Clifford, why are you wearing black?" He blinked. "Because it's a shirt." She frowned. "Black? Are you mourning someone? Who wears black by this time of the day? Please, go and remove it before you go buy my baby's pap and suya." Clifford stared at her, completely confused. "Vera, this is not the first time you've seen me wear black. It's just a color." Vera looked at him like he was speaking another language. If you want your baby to starve, continue wearing it, but this child doesn't like black, and that's final. Clifford looked at his mother for help. Mama only raised her hands and said, "My son, don't argue with a pregnant woman. Just go and change." He sighed deeply and muttered as he stood up. At this point, I'm just an errand boy for a baby that hasn't even been born. He walked into the room grumbling under his breath. Suya and pap, what kind of combination is that? Even witches don't eat like this. A few minutes later, he came out wearing a bright yellow t-shirt. Vera smiled instantly. "Much better. The baby likes this one. You are glowing now." Clifford rolled his eyes. "Of course I'm glowing. From stress." He picked up his wallet and keys and headed for the door. "If I don't come back in 30 minutes, tell the baby I fainted on the way." Mama chuckled softly as he left. Vera just leaned back on the couch, rubbing her belly proudly. "That's my husband. He'll do anything for us." Clifford returned from his late-night errand, exhausted but relieved. Vera had finally eaten her pap and suya and seemed calm again. At least, for now, peace had returned to the house. Later that night, Vera lay on the bed frowning, one hand on her stomach. Clifford lay at the far edge of the bed, eyes half open, afraid to move or breathe too loud. He had learned his lesson. With Vera, silence was safety. Just when sleep was about to take him, his phone rang. He picked it up lazily. "Hello?" Vera suddenly sniffed the air, then sniffed again, louder this time. Clifford froze. He knew that sound. Trouble had arrived. She turned her head slowly toward him. "Clifford," she said, "something is smelling here, like rotten egg." He sat up immediately. "Rotten egg? Wait, is that what you are craving this time?" Before he could finish, Vera covered her nose. "The smell is coming from your mouth. Clifford, this is terrible. Didn't you brush today?" He stared at her confused. "Vera, we've been talking since morning. How come you are just perceiving it now?" "Go and brush again," she shouted, turning away. "That smell can wake the baby." Half asleep and defeated, Clifford dragged himself to the bathroom to brush, for the third time that night. By morning, they finally decided it was time to return home. They packed their bags. As they were about to leave, Clifford turned to his mother. "Mama, please, call me every day just to check if I'm still alive." His mother burst into laughter. "You will survive, Clifford. You will survive." When they arrived home, Vera stepped out carefully, walking like someone counting her steps. Clifford carried the bags inside and sat on the couch, finally, ready to rest. But peace didn't last long. The moment Vera sat down, she frowned deeply. "Why is this cushion so low?" she shouted. "Who buys this kind of nonsense sofa?" Clifford just sat quietly, too tired to respond. Then Vera looked around the parlor like she was seeing it for the first time. "Clifford, what is this pen's color?" she asked, her voice rising again. "I hate it. Let's move out of this house today." Clifford just sat there, mouth open. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He knelt before her. "Vera, please. You know I love you. All those things I said before you got pregnant, I didn't mean them. You've won. You've shown me Pepe. And I've learnt my lesson. Have mercy on me, please." Vera sniffed, wiping her tears. "Honestly, Clifford, I thought it was revenge at first, but now I think it's my hormones. I can't control it." Clifford blinked. What kind of wicked hormones are these? She ignored him and said softly, "So, when are we moving out? Today or tomorrow?" Clifford looked at her and burst into tears. "Tomorrow," he whispered. They both cried, then somehow started laughing at each other. That night, Clifford couldn't sleep. He kept calling agents, searching for a new house, but everyone turned him down. His heart pounded faster as the night grew darker. "How will I even get a house, paint it, and furnish it before tomorrow?" he muttered, rubbing his forehead. Then, around 4 a.m., it happened. Vera suddenly screamed. Clifford jumped out of bed, heart racing. "What is it again, the house?" he asked in panic. But no, this time it wasn't about the house. Vera was in labor. He rushed her to the hospital, heart pounding. Before 7 a.m., the cry of a newborn filled the room. Clifford froze, then smiled, eyes wet. Mother and baby were healthy. He looked at his tiny son and whispered, "So, it was you that wanted to kill me?" But the baby just yawned, looking exactly like him. A few days later, they returned home. Clifford thought the struggle was finally over, that peace had come at last. But he was wrong. The sleepless nights began. By midnight, the whole house was awake. The baby's cry wasn't ordinary. It was loud, dramatic, and filled with passion, like a siren that refused to stop. Vera, half asleep and drooling on her pillow, nudged Clifford without even opening her eyes. "Your son is calling you," she murmured, voice weak and sleepy. Clifford turned slowly, eyes red and puffy. "How is he my son when he's crying? When he smiles, he's yours." The baby screamed even louder, kicking his tiny legs like a rock drummer in a rock band. Vera covered her ears. "Clifford, do something. He'll wake the whole street." Clifford sat up and stared at the baby. "My guy, please. We're all tired. Sleep small. Even Jesus rested on the 7th day." The baby just cried harder, as if to say, "Not tonight, Daddy." Clifford stood up, picked the baby, and began pacing the room barefoot, rocking him like he's singing movies. "Shh, Daddy is here," he whispered, though his own eyes were halfway closed. Meanwhile, Vera sat up with sleepy eyes, trying to make the baby's formula. She yawned so hard her eyes watered. "Clifford, please, check the water if it's warm," she muttered. He sighed, tested the bottle on his wrist like a professional nurse, and nodded. "Okay, it's fine now." They took turns feeding and rocking the baby until almost 6 a.m., yawning, whispering, and bumping into each other like zombies. Finally, the baby's eyes began to close. Clifford froze, afraid to breathe too loud. "Vera, I think he's sleeping," he whispered. "Don't talk," she whispered back. "Just put him down gently." He laid the baby down slowly, moving like someone defusing a bomb. The room went silent. Peace. Sweet peace. At last. Clifford sank into a chair, exhausted. "So, this is what parents go through? Nobody told me it's a full-time night shift." But before he could even rest, his alarm rang. 6:30 a.m. Work time. Vera looked at him, eyes half open. "You are still going to work?" Clifford gave a tired laugh. "If I don't go, who will buy the diapers?" He dragged himself into the bathroom, dressed up slowly, and looked at his reflection in the mirror. Red eyes, messy hair, shirt half tucked in. "Clifford," he muttered to himself, "you are officially finished." By 8 a.m., he was at the office, staring blankly at his computer. His boss walked by and asked, "Clifford, are you okay?" He smiled weakly. "Yes, sir. I just became a father." The boss nodded knowingly. "Ah, congratulations. And sorry." That was when Clifford finally understood. Being a father isn't just about saying, "Get pregnant." It's about love, patience, and sacrifice. But when he returned home and saw their baby giggling and waving his tiny hands at them, all the stress melted away. Clifford and Vera looked at each other and laughed softly, the kind of laugh that said, "We'll survive this." Did you enjoy this story? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a smile today. Thanks for watching.